Hey, new Limbus patch notes just dropped, along with some news on Mirror Dungeon hard mode, and 2 new IDs. So let's start off with the Rodya ID first. So here we have our scene lineup. We have Wrath, Sloth, and Gloom. Wrath is in general very useful for burn comps. Sloth is very useful for stuff like Legend Domain and Ebony Stem and Sun Shower, especially Sun Shower. And we have Gloom, which is in general very useful for basically everything. So on quick observation, it seems that she's used for gaining a lot of shields because she's like Zwei, right? She's used for gaining a lot of shields using poise count. It seems like she won't be gaining a lot of, like, her poise count won't be decreasing a lot, and she will keep stacking it up and up and up, possibly with until the limit is hit. So she can gain up to like 99 shield and be extremely tanky. So that's one thing going for her, because she can't really crit because she doesn't have the crit count. She doesn't have any poise, so she can't really crit. Because poise increases the crit chance. So she will have by default 1 poise, which I think gives a 5% crit chance. So she'll keep building up the poise count and gain a really thick shield. So in really tanky team comps that go on and have long fights, this will be extremely useful. But that's really situational. But I think being a 2-star being very situational is fine. Right? This is the ultimate survivability unit, just like K-Corp Hunger. So our first skill, gaze point count, so it'd be like a 3 plus 4 plus 4, and you just gain a lot of poise count. And focus defense, on use at X plus shield, gain poise count, and on hits hit, gain poise count. So when you already have your shield up, you want to use this to gain your poise count, or just use it to clash in order to get enough sanity to hit. And on the third skill, at X plus shield, boost coin power, inflict fragile next turn. So this entire unit is centered around building her shield from increasing her poise count. So definitely she won't be that good early. And so I don't think she'll be that useful for Railway, but possibly for Mirror Dungeon hard mode and some other content that may be added in the future that encourages survivability. I think this will be a really good idea, but for now, I don't really see a use for her. And her support skill is one ally with the lowest HP percentage gains X shield per Y poise count at the end of the combat phase. So this is poise support. So there are some units that gain a lot of poise count, and maybe you can use this for Mirror Dungeon hard mode. But I don't really see this being used unless a unit really builds up a lot of poise count. The one that I see that builds a lot of poise count right now is Blade Lineage Shiseng, and it's not really that much. So, and they have to have the lowest HP percentage. So I don't see it being that useful unless you're running a full poise team with a lot of poise or in Mirror Dungeon. So overall, okay unit, very niche passive, and it's used for long fights for survivability. So let's move on to our Corp 4th pack, Rhino Mersault. So I'll look at his passive first. At the end of the turn, raise max speed per X charge count next turn. So he's a speedy. I look at his kit and he's a speedy charge bleed count unit. So he's the, like, we were lacking a lot of sources of bleed count, and this is just one of them. So his scene lineup is Envy, Gloom, and Lust. The one to note here is that Gloom being the second skill is really amazing. It can be used to refill a lot of amazing egos, especially Sanity egos, like False Fluid Sac. And a lot of the R-Corp guys and a lot of the charge carriers both fuel Gloom and Envy. So yeah, it fuels Teleport Dawn too. And Fluid Sac and Teleport Files. So this will be pretty useful in those charge teams. So in the his first skill is at X plus charge count, boost final power. At X plus speed, deal more damage. So there's a payoff for charge count and a payoff for speed. And on hit, gain charge count. So it seems like charge is used to boost your damage and your clashing power, whereas speed is just damage. So on hit, gain charge count. So this is just your generic gain charge count ability. I'm not sure whether this will be the X plus speed and the X plus charge count will be that useful, because it's just the first skill. Like does the damage really matter? Does the final power really matter that much? It depends on how much. So maybe the first skill will be secretly OP, we'll never know. Depends on the numbers. But it's a 1 coin, so I'm not too optimistic. So the second skill and the third skill are 2 coins each. So they probably deal... I'm guessing they have a high base. Or maybe they do have high coin power, we don't know. At X plus speed, inflict more bleed count on the skill. So this is a very massive bleed count applier. I would say definitely not as much as the third skill, but we'll get onto that later. X plus speed, inflict more bleed count on the skill. So he gains charge count, inflicts bleed count, and inflicts more bleed count. So the thing to know about this skill is that this gains charge count. So I would say use this over the first skill if you are at lower sanity, so you can actually build up your sanity over the first skill. And I'm guessing that you want to use the second skill as much as possible and not the first skill. And you want to use that to build up the third skill, which is Rhino Ram. At X plus charge count, gain coin power. So this is the build up, the payoff. I'm guessing it'll be like +2, +1, or +3 coin power, all of which are really good. And the first hit, inflict bleed count, spend charge to inflict bleed count, blah 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 blah, bleed count, bleed count, bleed count, bleed count. So massive amounts of bleed count. So let's say each one of these is +1, +1, +1, +1, +1, +1. That's +6 bleed count, which is absolutely insane. At the least, +6 bleed count. But you have to have a lot of charge, which I don't know how reliable it is to get. Maybe with Teleport Dawn. A lot of Mersault's IDs have charge, but it's very hard to get charge count in these IDs. So we have a lot of charge support right now, and especially in Mirror Dungeon 2 hard mode. I think this might be useful. And there could be a railway strat that can use bleed count and bleed, maybe. But I highly doubt that for now. Unless some bosses are maybe weak to it. No, the robots are not weak to bleed, so to use another team combo that. And I would say his defense skill is probably gonna roll very high, like have a high defense value. And if attacked while shielded, gain charge count. So you might actually want to use this skill over his first skill, if you don't feel like you can win a clash. And it still gains you charge count. We don't know how much, but maybe it's more than the first skill. I'll say this the defense skill might actually be useful. Because you see with other units like 7 section Altis has a block defense skill too, and she's actually useful because her defense skill is the highest, from what I remember, the highest rolling in the game. And you have your activate suit pressurization. Is the one that raises your max speed based on the charge count. I'm not sure. I think your speed is used for, like, you can use your speed to redirect the clashes. So he'll be actually a really good tank unit. He'll be more of a bruiser than a tank. I'll say this pretty good. Oh yeah, we don't know how much his coins have. I don't think he'll have that high of a coin values. So he'll probably have Yeah, we just I can't tell right now. It'll probably be similar to K-Corp Honglu. So even if he's as good as K-Corp Honglu, he's still really good bleed support. So I'm decently optimistic about this unit. But I'm guessing it'll be very hard to meet the charge requirement. At the start of the second phase, one ally if not in the Mirror Dungeon hard mode, it'll be quite hard to hit the requirement. So his support skill is at the start of the combat phase, one high, the highest charge count gains max speed, so it's the same as his normal passive, but on the unit with the highest charge count. So I'm not sure who to use this on, but in general is pretty decent. It could be, I think, Rabbit, but Rabbit doesn't gain a lot. So it'll probably be Dawn. Yeah, it'll probably be Dawn or R-ish. I'm not sure which unit gains a lot of charge. You can use Teleport Dawn on turn 1 or some other ego that can gain you a lot of charge on the first turn, and then you can immediately use the skill to choose which of your units has the highest speed. So I would say this is a pretty decent passive, and especially if you're running a charge team. And I'm guessing Rabbits in the future will have an effect where the difference in speed will increase your damage or something, just like Nibiru Furina. So far I'm liking this unit a lot, and I think he is actually gonna be pretty decent. And move on to the Mirror of Mirrors hard mode dungeon notice. So the delayed notice. So here it doesn't really say much, it just says that the weekly bonuses are not reset. So when the normal hard mode came out, normal Mirror Dungeon 2 came out, they resetted the weeklies probably for maintenance purposes and allow you to do your dailies twice. But now we can't. So for this update it doesn't. This one's pretty interesting. So the starting cost will be changed from 400 to 200. So you can even get fewer OOs, which is actually pretty insane. And you want to start out with maybe 3 to 5 units maybe. But your you might want to use K-Corp Honglu to solo like the earlier floors. We don't know. We don't know what's the best strat. There's a lot of strats you can use for this. But 200 is barely enough to afford like 1 to 2 OOs, maybe even 3. But you can't really get the Eagles because the Eagles are really expensive. So I'm not sure how you're supposed to manage this. It's gonna be really interesting experimenting with a lot of team comms in Mirror Dungeon hard mode. I think this is the number that they tune so it's most fun to play. So I'm gonna await that. At the start, at shops and rest stops, cost of all identities under 3 stars will be adjusted to 0. So now you are incentivized to use your 2 stars and 1 stars at the rest stops. So for example, you found a lot of burn ego gifts, and then at the rest stop you want to choose the Liu identities, and since they cost 0 you can just pick it up. So I really like this change because it makes your team comp a lot more flexible. And it says here, yeah, our goal is to encourage experimentation to enhance synergy between the different loadouts. And it says here, reducing the Sanity cost by adjusting or rearranging the starting composition in the middle of one. So yeah, I do agree with Project Moon here. I really like this change. And especially it promotes the 2 stars, which are very underdeveloped right now. And the 2 stars aren't that much better than the 3 stars anyway. Like they're just 2 stars are more supports and niches. So you can just put in whatever niche or support you want. So I really like this change. And Yeah. So there's new major changes to Mirror Dungeon Hard Mode 2. So shops and rest stops will now appear in fixed locations. So the first one on floor 2, first one on floor 4, and first one on floor 5. So it seems like the floor 4 and floor 5 is gonna be very difficult, or very long, or whatever. It's gonna be very hard because they're just rest stops all the way there. So they think that will be the most fun, and I do agree that that's the most fun. And also before the boss fight. So it's gonna be a cavalcade of rest stops and shops just the shops at the back of the mirror dungeon, which I do agree with the change. And the rest stop the first room of floor 3. Okay. So, and now they're giving the intent. I like it because it tells you Project Moon's reasoning for some of these changes, so players can have a better understanding, and maybe in their complaint letters they can be more constructive, since they know the reasons behind Project Moon changes. So the intention was that there are instances in which unpredictable features prevented players from finishing the shop. Yeah, that was an issue. So if there were unpredictable features, you can't see the shop you're at, so it's inconsistent, and you can't like, because shops are very useful for, like, if you don't get a shop, you actually might be bricked, and it's very heavy RNG, and it might just determine your entire run. So it wasn't very fun to play, or if it was added, it probably wouldn't be as fun to play. And so this is a good change. And the floor buffs will be adjusted based on the difficulty. Okay, I'm not sure what this means. I'm guessing they're just changing the floor buffs. Floor base gives rarity categorization. So I like this change because there were some really, especially the tier 4 and 5 ego gifts, the 3 to 5 ego gifts that were ridiculously broken, that you can just reroll for to, like, when you start the run, to get it, to get the perfect comp, and just to breeze through the mirror dungeon. So that might actually be a strat in hard mode, but thank god they patched it, because that would be really boring to play if you just reroll for ego gifts again and again until you get the perfect ones. Especially something like lunar memories. Just reroll and reroll until you get lunar memories. That would be so boring to do. So that won't be the... You will still have to reroll for the best ego gifts, but it's not as bad anymore, because they also added the choosing your character, your 2 stars and 1 stars costing 0, so it won't be as bad anymore. So I really like this change. So Mirror Dungeon 2 actually looking kind of fun. Mirror Dungeon 2 hard mode. So the following changes are applied to Mirror Dungeon 1, 2, and 2 hard. So it's added option to refuse an ego gift. So some ego gifts are negatively might be more of a drawback than an actual boon. So the best example, the one everyone knows, is the Illusion of Choice Gossicipium, which literally might break your run if you magically get it maybe at the end of the run before you fight a boss, and then the boss can't get staggered. Cost gain and ego gift spawn rate upon battle completion. So normal encounters, you won't really get a lot of ego gifts, but abnormality fights, they change abnormality fights to focus encounters. So you get a very high chance of an ego gift, and you even gain more cost. So you're very incentivized to do an abnormality battle. And a risky encounter is 50 cost gain and 35% of ego gift spawn rate. So if you want more ego gifts, you go for the abnormality fights. If you want more money, go for the risky encounters. And the floor boss depends on the floor. Ego gifts, you just get ego gift. And these 2 changes are amazing. So Milepost of Survival, because if you get it on floor 4 or floor 5, it'll be completely useless. So they reduce the rarity so that it will spawn on the earlier floors much more. Later you'll see in they changed it so that Oh no, in the previously they showed here that they will put the lower rarity ego gifts in floor 1 and 3, 1 to 3, and the higher rarity gifts at floor 4 to 5. And you have the Malpus, the Malpus survival. And they nerfed lunar memories, which is, it was completely busted. Of course they nerfed it. I didn't even know why it was a tier 4 ego gift in the first place. It's ridiculously broken. And even the cost, the 400 cost did not justify how broken it was. It's just once you get it, you just immediately win. It's like the win button. Yeah. So now we'll talk about the patch notes. So you have the extraction, and now if Yiseng extraction, Dimensional Shredder, Wishing Hand, Spice Burst. So if you don't have Spice Burst, please just get him. Dimensional Shredder is whatever. He has a better, I would say almost better ego, but the Dimensional Shredder is very high damage, but Spice Boost is too with multiple body parts. So I would say, the Sun Shower, his Sun Shower is ridiculous damage. So I think if you don't have Dimensional Shredder, then it's okay if you don't have him, but the Sun Shower is a paid Battle Pass ego. So you probably might need to wait for a few months. So maybe if you don't have the Dimensional Shredder, you might want to either spark it or get it here. Like if you don't have Spice Bush and Dimensional Shredder, might as well just pull on this banner. But then again, the event is coming up with the limited unit, so you may want to just pull for that. But and just spark for the Spice Bush since it's a season 2 and it's gonna go away at the end of the season. Not really go away, but yeah, it's gonna be harder to get. The new identities, Mersault and Rodya, okay. So now this is the interesting changes. So you get the Mirror Dungeon hard mode changes, and now Sanity will be reduced upon using the Sinner starting ego. So there was a strat where since you have infinite ego resources, you just spam the Sinner starting ego, the base egos, to just win clashes rather than just use the other egos. So the starting egos, the base egos were ridiculously broken at doing this. Especially during the fox fight in chapter 4. You don't have to interact much with Sanity if you just use the ego to win clashes and you just gain Sanity that way. So I do agree with this change. And they are rebalancing the base egos, so using the Sanity, and they're changing, I believe, representation emitter because it was just too broken, which I do agree with, because increasing your Sanity is way too good of a skill. I'm not sure whether they will nerf Fluid Sac, but we'll have to see, because that is basically a representation emitter. But at least you pay for it using Sanity. But it's still too broken. But at least it uses more resources, I guess. So Sanity 10, Close Eye View, blah blah blah. All these are the decent ego, those that win clashes and just have a small effect attached to them. Those are the 10 Sanity ones. The two amazing ones here are Land of Illusion, which is an AoE, and Representation Emitter. Oh, one thing to note here is that Body Sack is 10 Sanity. Body Sack was really overpowered, but at least now it uses some amount of Sanity. So you can't just, when you spam it every turn, there's a drawback. So I say it's okay. I feel like it should have gotten more Sanity, but because Body Sack is just really broken, but okay. So Land of Illusion was an AoE that applied sinking, but this is ridiculously broken. And it was one of the only sources of... No. But it's a Gloom AoE, from what I remember. So this was really broken. And okay, it's 15 Sanity, so that's fine. The one that was really broken is representation emitter, because it made every fight about sanity management completely a non-issue. Like the Fox fight, you just spam representation emitter and you win. So they say here that because it's more powerful than any other base ego, and the base ego would, if sanity is a thing, it will be considered absolute must in gameplay contents, especially in railway where when you use your ego you lose a lot of sanity, so you need to gain back the sanity. And with infinite ego resources, this will be a very big issue, because you want sanity to have a drawback. The ego spam to have a drawback. So that's what they're doing. So they are nerfing it so that it heals with the 8 SP to 3 other allies with the lower SP, rather than just to all allies, which is a fair nerf. It still is pretty good, but it's not overpowered, especially as we gain more sinners with every fight. And they just changed the passive a bit. The 2+ heal efficiency, okay, it's pretty decent. It's not too big of a deal. And this one is a big one too. Adjusted amounts of SP regain when defeating enemy of higher level depending on level difference. So now you gain less SP for defeating an enemy of a higher level. And when you're defeated by a unit, you just gain a flat 10 SP. I mean the 10 SP is regained regardless of the level difference. So the level difference doesn't matter, which I really do like, because it made, when the levels increased for the enemies, it will make sanity very whack. You just instantly gain like massive amounts of sanity, even though the enemy is not that hard. There's a lot of sanity tricks you can do, and I think that was very, I mean that will break gameplay a lot. So I do agree with this change to make it more fair and consistent and easier to balance the enemies too. And also there was an interaction where Anne Sinclair was really bad in, or at least not as good in Mirror Dungeon 2, because all the enemies are high level, and where Anne Sinclair defeats an enemy, he just maxes out his sanity. He gains like 45 sanity or something. So now this is fixed and he just gains like 5 sanity. So yeah. And also it prevents like those positive sanity units from just completely maxing out the sanity, which completely negates the ego resource usage. I mean the drawbacks to using ego. So I really like this change. And I think this is gonna make MD2 a lot more harder. A lot more harder. MD2 hard mode. So I'm really looking forward to that. And I think I think the 1 week delay might be for these two changes, because they identified these two are very unfun, and those were the strats for Mirror Dungeon 2 hard mode. I think they identified those as really broken, because the community had a very big drawback to the very unbalanced sanity changes. So they are preempting that, and they actually play tested this time, and they finally went back in this. So I think MD2 hard mode might be at least more balanced than the other times. So I'm extremely excited. Thursday can't come soon enough. I'll say this like every video. And they're changing abnormality counters to focus encounters just in name only. And blah blah blah, only use bug fixes. Okay. It's nothing too big there. And yeah, we're done. So see you all on Thursdays. Hopefully MD2 will be really hard and really fun. And bye.